Talking Joe podcast, minds in motion. Talk about relationships, help your emotions. Behavior management when your kids start to losing it. Talk about life and all the confusion. Minds in motion. Minds in motion. Talk about relationships. I'm talking Joe podcast, minds in motion. Talk about relationships, help your emotions. Behavior management when your kids start to losing it. Talk about life and all the confusion. Minds in motion. Minds in motion. Talk about relationships. Emotion. Minds in motion. Talk about relationships.
Good evening and welcome to Minds in Motion with me, your host, Jewel. Tonight, we have another guest, as usual. But before we start the show, I want to acknowledge everyone who is tuning in on all our platforms tonight. Our newest platform is GTM, Global Talk and Music. We are pleased to be on radio on SEB Radio as well in Toronto. We are also streaming on Facebook and YouTube, TDN TV Network 1 and TDN TV Radio. We're on Twitch as well. So, and of course, Minds in Motion on YouTube on my channel as well. Instagram, how can I forget Instagram for TDN TV Caribbean. Tonight, the topic is a very sensitive topic, so I just want to give a quick disclaimer for that for people who may be triggered, or if trauma is at the forefront of your mind when you hear of the topic that we're going to be talking about today. Just be mindful when you are sending in your questions for the guests as well. The topic tonight is all about sexual grooming and the signs of sexual grooming with children. So it's not to scare anyone, but it's to bring awareness to the topic. And tonight I have Tanya King as our guest on our show. She's an author, two-time author, and she's going to talk about her book as well, where you can learn more about this topic. So welcome, Tanya King.
Thank you for having me join today.
Yes, Tanya, welcome to Minds in Motion. Thank you so much. I just want to acknowledge the fact that you're a busy woman and you made time for us to come on and just to let the listening and viewing audience know more about this topic. Tonight, we also have a text number that you can text me at. So Tanya, 1 second. So the text number is 1-647-495-3224. If you're watching and you'd like to send a text, or if you're listening, to send a text for a question, okay? All right, Tanya, welcome again. So Tanya, I haven't spoken to you in a while about this topic, but we kind of recently connected, and I said, you know what, this would be a great opportunity for you, not only to bring awareness to the viewers and the listeners, but also to promote your book at this time, okay? So Tanya, tell the listening and viewing audience a little bit about yourself.
Well, my name is Tanya. I am a believer in Jesus. That's my first thing. I just love God and I love people. I love to share about hope. Just a lot of times we find ourselves in situations where we feel hopeless or we feel frustrated with life and things just seem bigger than they are at times for us. And it just kind of leaves us in a place where we feel like, I don't know if I can do this, or you find a lot of people dealing with mental health, and they're just in a situation where it just feels hopeless. Like, I can't find a job, I can't do this, or I can't do that, or my past is just a stumbling block in my life, and I just don't know how to get over that hump. And I think for me, one of the biggest things was in the pandemic, prior to writing my book. It was like the silence, it provoked everything that you didn't think about while you were busy working. It
Mm-hmm.
just had your mind on replay, or on, you need to deal with this. You thought
Yeah.
this wasn't a bother to you? Okay, well, now you know it is. And so for
Yes.
me, it was one of the really big pushing elements to get me to, after like 20 years, to get this book out there,
Yeah.
to just finally finish it and just get it out there. And so, yeah, I just love people, and I love to share my testimonies and what God has done in my life, because really, if it wasn't for God, um,
Yeah.
I wouldn't be here. Probably would have
Yeah.
been 5 years ago.
Thank you for sharing that. Yeah, we actually met during the pandemic and we still haven't met in person. My goodness. We haven't met in person yet and we have to make this happen. We really do.
Definitely.
I think spring is a good opportunity for us to meet up.
Definitely.
So you went into talking about your book and maybe you could talk a little bit about um, how that book came about for you, and then we can get into the topic at hand, if
Okay.
you don't mind.
Okay. So this book, Behind the Windows of a Smile, I can show you what it looks like.
Yes.
But Behind the Windows
Yeah.
of a
Yeah.
Smile
Perfect angle.
is
Yes.
the book that I wrote. It was basically based on going through childhood sexual abuse. I remember in college I was asked to write a creative story, and in writing that creative story, I just I wrote pretty much a poem of my book. And when I handed it in, I ended up getting A plus plus plus. Never knew that was a mark. But
Mhm.
I got that mark based on just being my authentic self, pouring out whatever I was dealing with. And in the process of doing that, I was able to share what I was feeling, which was really bothering me, but I didn't know how to put it in words, and I just put it out there. And
Yeah.
I from there I knew that I needed to write a book. I went to
Yeah.
the library while I was doing it, and I started writing, and I felt this urge saying you need to write. And I was like, right, I'm not writing a book. Like, who wants to tell everybody their problems? Not me.
Hmm.
And that's why it took the time that it took. It was about 20 years, and it took
Okay.
that time because I was just like, I don't want to tell everybody the struggles I had or what I was dealing with. I would rather just keep that to myself.
Yeah.
But as time went, I knew I needed to share it so that other people who went through things similar to me would know that there is a chance to be free from being in the place of a victim or in bondage
Yes.
of
Yeah.
unforgiveness and pain.
It's almost like taking back that, like you said, you're not a victim, but you're the victor in the
Yeah,
situation. Okay.
absolutely.
Okay. Well, thanks for that. Can you show the cover again? I wish I had my book with me. So I read the book. This was oh, it's upside down, I think. This
Sorry.
was, oh yeah. So I love that. So it's Behind the Windows of a Smile. And what is the bottom part there
It
after
says
under the smile?
uncovering the hidden to walk in freedom is the
Uncovering the
line
hidden
below it.
freedom. Yes. Yeah. So um I'm just recapping. I posted a video today on my Instagram, and it was a video from an old interview that we had done um, back in the pandemic. And it's, I want to know if this is wasn't the question, one of the questions that I shared with you,
That's
but
okay.
has there been some um, growth with you through not only writing but talking about this topic? Do you think there's been some growth?
I believe there's growth, and I've also been able to empower other people through
Mhm.
just being willing to share and be candid. Because, yeah, most of the times, what I find is people feel like because it's 20 years, 30 years, whatever, you're over it. But the truth of the matter is, sometimes
Yeah.
different traumas and triggers linger with you. And
Right.
for me, I know that God helped me to forgive. I can see the perpetrators, and I'm good.
Yeah.
I had to go through forgiveness. I went through inner healing, a lot of different things to make sure that I would get help. I went to counseling because it was
Yes.
something that was needed because I had trust issues. And the long and short of it, I feel that there's been growth and that I've been able to share it with many people and see that it has helped them on their journey. This
Okay.
book, I remember talking to somebody and they told me there was a pastor's wife that was going through a situation, and it was
Mm,
along the same lines of my book. And they said to me, they told them about me and asked me, could I buy a book from you so that I could give it to the person. Gave it to the woman, and the woman, her life changed. She was saying like she's so thankful for this book because it inspired her and it helped her to understand some of the things that she was going through.
yeah.
So for me, one of the things is it's important to write because you're able to help other people who are going through it that don't know that, oh yeah, this could be a trauma, or oh yeah, that thing that happened to you 20 years ago could be triggering you when you go to those doctor's appointments. And
Yes.
you're
And
having a,
relationships.
yeah,
Your
and
partner.
relationship. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Hmm. Well, let's get into the questions. So, for this matter, I've asked, I'm going to be asking very specific questions. Um, and just, if there's any questions that are, that you would like not to answer, just let me know that you're not comfortable, okay? And just for the viewing audience, those are the you that are chiming in now. Tanya King is the guest tonight. She is the author of Behind the Window of a Smile. And we're talking about signs of grooming, sexual grooming with children, and things to be aware of. So Tanya's solely going to be speaking from her perspective. Um, in no way, shape, or form is she like a therapist or a psychologist, but you're welcome to ask your questions, okay? Send your questions on the text 647-495-3224, or you can chime in on whatever platform that you are watching from, okay? Um, Without naming any names, can you describe the relationship with the person, like what it looked like to outsiders at the beginning?
At the beginning, it would look more like it's a caregiver, somebody who may babysit me or watch me or take me to an event or to school, give me a ride to school or take me to church or something.
Mm-hmm.
So it was more somebody that was close to the family, just a family friend. That's one of the people. But then there was also family member where it was like you would just see them coming to visit, and when they come to visit, something's happening, you
Yeah.
know. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you for that. This, it reminds me of something I actually listened to this morning. It happened to come across my feed this morning while I was watching TikTok, my favorite app now. Um, is a voice recording of a 14-year-old and a pastor, and
Wow.
that pastor happens to be her stepfather. And they were just talking about like the conversation. And I don't know who recorded it. If it was the young lady who decided, you know what, I'm going to take a stand now and let people know what's happening. But it was so ironic that this topic was on my For You page. And this just shows you how people are listening to us all the time, right? And it was just that person that was so close to her was the
Yep.
one that did this to her. And she even said, why can't we have a normal father-daughter relationship, you
Yeah.
know? But anyway, I want you to tell your story because you are victor in
Yes.
this, right? Um, Many survivors talk about being felt like they feel like they've been the chosen one or the uniquely mature one. How did they praise you or give you attention to make you build walls between your peers and your family?
Well, they made me feel significant. So it was like pretty much anything you want. Oh, you want food, you want toys, you want whatever, you
Mm-hmm.
can have it, kind of thing.
Yeah.
And so it made you feel like, oh, wow, I must be special to them for real. Because it's always, if they're going somewhere, you're asking, because from a child's perspective, this person is nice to you. So you want to go, oh, okay, I want to go to the theater with them, or I want to go to this with them, or
Mm-hmm.
that with them, because I know that when I go, I'm going to get whatever I want, kind of thing. So it just, it's more from that standpoint of them putting you on a pedestal and making you feel needed or just significant. So just,
Mm-hmm.
you felt like a princess to them. But then gradually with time, when the grooming piece is gone, it changes, the scene changes from getting whatever you want to, okay, well, I gave you all these things, so what am I getting in return, kind of a thing.
Right. 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 Hmm.
Then you realize you're connected for more reasons than just to get what you want.
Right. Hmm. Okay. And isolation. So the topic like of isolation. In what ways did the individual slowly distance you away from your support systems, like your parents and your friends? Um,
Well, I,
yeah.
I noticed when having a sibling, there wasn't like, it wasn't like, okay, when we're going somewhere, we're going to take the sibling with us. It was, I'm going to take you by yourself so we can go wherever. And it was,
Mm,
I don't even know when it finally dawned on me something was wrong with that picture. But I noticed, I was like, oh, how comes my brother can't go? But I noticed that it was always me. And I was just,
right.
and I think as kids, you're wondering it, but you don't know what to say. And also with them being the adult, you're just trying to, make sure that you're obedient to the adult. So you're not really questioning, why are you not bringing my
Yeah.
sibling? You
Yeah.
just kind of go with them. And sometimes you want to carry your sibling, but it's like, oh, it's okay, come on, let's go, kind of thing. So you're like, okay,
Hmm.
fine. So you
Hmm.
just go.
Was your sibling an older sibling than you or
Younger,
younger?
younger,
Okay. But it was
younger.
just that opportunity for you to be alone with this person.
Exactly,
That's what they created, that kind of environment to build the isolation and you not being around anyone
exactly.
else. Um, okay. Hmm. I'm gonna dive into the normalization of grooming. So looking back, what were small boundaries that were pushed before you realized what was happening?
Well, one of the things that I noted in my book was desensitizing. So you'll find that person always giving you a hug or always tickling you or something. They're doing things that kind of desensitize you and make you feel it's normal to hug you. But then before you know it, it's moved from a hug to a caress or something more than just a general hug.
Yeah.
And so it's kind of just letting you get used to them always hugging you, or as I said, tickling you, or just,
Mhm.
give you a kiss on your head or something, like, and you don't think anything of it because again, you're a child. What do you know? You don't expect adults to, you know, to take advantage of you because you're a child. And from what we know as children, the adults take care of us. They're the ones making sure we're
Right.
safe. So we
Right.
don't really expect them to be putting us in an unsafe position.
Yeah. Hmm.
So yeah,
Okay.
definitely the desensitizing is one thing. They'll just
Yeah.
do different things and you get used to,
Normalizing.
yeah. And
Yeah.
it's normalized, and before you know it, you don't even realize, oh wait, what's happening? Something more is happening.
Yeah. Making you feel like, oh, the touch is okay, and the gradually going into
Increases, yeah.
different things. Yeah. Okay. Um, how did the person use gaslighting or secrecy to make you feel like you were the one in control or that the relationship was your idea? Was that anything that you had experienced?
When I got to my teenage years, it was kind of like, oh, you said something because you want to get me in trouble. And like, but at the time as a teenager, I knew something was wrong. Because as I
Mhm.
got to teenage years, I was like, something just doesn't feel right. But then it's like you, as a teen, you're no longer 5 years old, where you just kind of go with the flow.
Yes.
And not really question, or not really kind of kick back. So as you're kicking back, it's kind of like, oh, you're just saying these things because you want to have your own way. And you're like,
Yeah.
but it wasn't even my own way the whole time. So
Yeah.
I find it was, those were the little things that were being said, like, you know, you're not coming with me. Like,
Mhm.
no, well, why not? I don't want
Yeah.
to. And then
Yeah.
it's like, oh, but you were supposed to come with me, but it's pushing it back on me. Okay, well, I'll come, whatever. But sometimes I didn't want to. So then it's like you had no choice. It's like if you said no, it was a problem. And then
Mhm.
you realize they're gaslighting you, but you don't know that as a child,
Yes.
that you're being gaslit.
Right. That was a similar message, that kind of, not message, but something I got from the voice recording that I heard today as well. The young lady was saying, basically, she was saying she doesn't want to do this anymore.
Yeah.
And he was like, just give me a chance, like, let's just continue, let's wean it off slowly. You can't just drop something like that. Let's continue until it's okay to drop it. And there was one point in the conversation, I'm going to actually post it on my Instagram after, but there was one point in that conversation where he said to her, like, because she was standing up for herself. She said, I explained this to you already. Like, what don't you understand, basically? And he scolded her. He's like, watch your tone, basically. And he's now asserting himself and saying, remember, I'm the authority in this situation. I'm reminding you to watch your tone. And then she had to scale back and say, I wasn't saying anything rude, you
Yeah.
know? So they make you feel that.
If you're the one who started the whole relationship and you didn't. Cause
Yeah. Hmm. What kind of emotional leverage or debts did they create, or did they create those debts for you?
um it just felt like you had to just go with the flow of whatever, because they were always kind to you. Like, I always gave you anything you wanted, kind of thing.
Mm,
Yeah, but that doesn't mean that I wanted to do what you wanted me.
yeah.
And it just, I think for me, one of the hardest things in that is that you had to be hiding things consistently, and you want to say something, but then they just don't want you to remember, I could lose my job, or remember this, so
Hmm.
they would throw back the stuff on you.
The guilt trip, the gaslighting. Yeah.
But you're like, how is that my problem? But then as a child, you're not even thinking that either, even as a teen, but you're like, I don't care, I don't want to do this.
Yeah.
And yes, I told somebody because I something feels wrong, something
Yeah.
doesn't feel right about this.
Hmm.
And so, like, in saying all this, I can remember when I had to eventually, my mom and my dad found out, and the CAS got involved in stuff, and the person was like, well, how could you have done this to me? Like, I could lose my job. And I'm like, I just told someone and they told my parents. So what do you want? Like,
Yeah.
and I know that happened because I kept saying it to people, but nobody would know what to say. And then I would say to them,
Yeah.
don't tell my parents, don't say anything. But this one person finally was like, what do you mean? I have to tell them. Like, what? You're
Yeah.
a kid.
Yeah.
What is this?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that was where the breaking point came for me, so I could get help to get out of the situation.
Hmm. Um, so there's a question coming in from the back. Hold on. At what age should parents, so this is deviating from our questions, but I know you know the answer. So, what age should parents begin teaching their children on how to recognize inappropriate touching?
I
And
think,
because you're in childcare right
yeah,
now, so
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. I believe as young as they can speak. So at 3 years old, you will tell them about safe touch and unsafe touch. You're gonna make it in a way that it is age like they can understand it. So you're not going to tell them something that is not within their level of understanding or comprehension. You're going to try to be like, okay, these are your bathing suit area, and anywhere your bathing suit covers, those are areas that are unsafe touch. You
Yeah.
know, maybe your hands are okay to be touched, that's okay, but you want to make sure they know what safe and unsafe touch is,
Hmm.
because at the end of the day, if you don't let them know, they think that everybody who's touching them, maybe on their buttocks, is okay, and it's not. So some of the things you would also say is, okay, the only people who change your diaper is mom, dad, auntie so and so, or the doctor is allowed to touch these areas when they're doing an examination on you. But
Yeah.
you have to let your children know as soon as they can speak. It's very important. I could remember there was a gentleman that when I had the first accident I had in 2009, he was taking my daughter to her recital, and
Yeah.
she was 3, and she says to him, "No, no, mommy said don't touch. Mommy said don't touch." And he
Hmm.
was trying to put her seatbelt on, and he needed to put her seatbelt on. And
Yeah.
he had to literally put something between his hand and her private area to put her seatbelt on because she wouldn't allow it. And she was
Yeah.
only 3. But she was talking from the time she was like two and three quarters. So
Right.
she was able to verbalize that. But it's important for us to tell them from they're young, because people do these things very young. I know of a young girl that was molested, like abused at 2 years old.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah. You're right. You're absolutely right. Thank you for answering that question, and thank you for the question as well. So don't feel uncomfortable for viewers that are listening. You might have a burning question that you'd like to ask. Feel free to ask the question. If Tanya feels comfortable, I'm speaking on behalf of you, Tanya, that Tanya, you would answer if you feel comfortable, right? And obviously you'd say, I don't feel
Yeah,
comfortable answering that, right?
for sure.
So remember, you can text 647-495-3224, and also just type in a question if you have a question, okay? Um, so did they make you feel like you owed them something because the gifts or attention that they gave you? I think you mentioned that already,
Yeah.
but they
There's
made you
many
feel
times.
that. Hmm.
There's many times where it's like, look at all I've done for you. Like, and it's like, yeah, but that doesn't matter because I don't like this. And I find that when you finally come to that place of understanding of, wait, I don't like this,
Yeah.
it's like a wake up, but then you get that resistance where it's like you can't just change your mind. And so they'll do things where, the dopamine comes from different touches, and that brings
Yes. Yeah.
pleasure to you, right?
Yes.
And so again, as a child, you can't turn off the pleasure button. If someone touches you in an area that somewhat brings pleasure to you, even though it's an area that you might not want them to be at, you don't have that level of understanding to know that, oh, this is nobody's supposed to touch me here. If nobody told you that, you don't know that it's not
Yeah.
okay
Yeah.
until a certain place where you get older and you start to realize, wait, something's wrong. Something doesn't feel right, or I don't feel right.
Yeah.
And I think for me it was about middle school where I was like, no, something doesn't seem right about this, and I don't feel right about myself. Like I feel like something's wrong with me.
Mm-hmm.
And before I knew it, it was like I was like, wait, something seems wrong, something is wrong. And
Mm-hmm.
that's when I started telling people like something happened to me. And but again, because I told them don't tell my mom or my dad because I don't want to get in trouble, they didn't tell because they were my peers, so they didn't say
Right.
anything.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
the only way that I would have gotten help was by having somebody who had the wisdom to know that, oh yeah, this is not acceptable.
Right. Hmm. For sure. So, listening audience, when somebody's telling you something, whether they're a child or not, sometimes you may think that children don't really know what they're talking about. They know what they're talking about. And even if you didn't believe that this was happening, your job as an adult is to investigate, is to inquire, to find out if there's truth to the story, right? Um, just putting that out there because sometimes, we think that children are making up things and they have a wild imagination, and how could they know these things? They know these things because they're experiencing these things, right? So investigate. It's your job to keep the children safe. All right. Um, so let's talk about. So you started to talk about disclosure. You just mentioned disclosure.
Yeah.
Um, what was the? So you were just talking about it around middle school area, or the era
Yeah.
was middle school. And so, was there a very specific aha moment that made you break the silence? Um, or was it a gradual awakening?
I think it was kind of gradual. I just kept feeling like something's wrong with me. And I
Mhm.
couldn't, I was just like, why me? Like something just feels wrong about this.
Mhm.
And and it was just like I need to talk, I need to say something. So I would just share it with my friends,
Yeah.
and as I said, and then in the long run, it was just like nothing was changing. So it was like I was just talking for no reason, and nobody could help me out of whatever I'm dealing with. So it was kind of like, okay. And then what I also noticed was that it was also causing basically the same thing to keep happening. So for me, it was like the law of attraction. It was like everywhere I went, somebody else was trying to abuse me. And so
Yes.
in my mind, I started to think like, is there something on me that says come and bother me or come touch me or come do something I don't want you to do to me? And I
Yeah.
noticed it was like a cycle that started to happen. So at the age of 8, there was another person that was introduced because a relative that would visit, and when they visit, they forced me to watch things that were not good. And then in the long run, it it's like now it became a part of me too. So then I ended up having those struggles because this it's like you attract abuse to yourself. I don't know what
Mhm.
it is, but it's like maybe other abusers see that you have this vulnerability. I'm not really sure, but I
Hmm.
know that was one of the things that I put was that it's like you get re-abused. It just keeps, it's like a pattern and it keeps happening
Yeah.
and it's like you draw
Yeah.
it to you. And I know like in reading, a lot of people had that same thing where they felt like, okay, every time something is happening to me and different people keep abusing me.
Yeah. Thank you for that. And thank you also to Catherine for sending that message. It was believe the children, investigate and report any child abuse. Absolutely. Thank you for that because there's so many things happening and it's right sometimes right in front of our nose, as you explained earlier. For those who are just chiming in, um, Tanya was explaining earlier that it's somebody that she knew, someone that was close to her, someone that took her to and from school, right? And those are the perpetrators. Those are the ones who are close to you. The closest ones to you are the ones that are the perpetrators, right?
Yep.
And you just talked about a family member that was also came into the picture around 8 years old,
Yes.
right?
And a higher percentage of people who are abused, they're abused by people that they know. It's not usually a stranger.
Yeah, yeah. So be very hyper vigilant about where your children are, who they're with, what they're doing, where they're going. Um, don't take it for granted. Don't take it for face value that this person is so, you feel they're so nice. And it doesn't matter if they're in church, doesn't matter if they're praising the Lord. This person could also have these perverted thoughts about harming children, right?
Yep.
So, what was the biggest fear for you when you're holding back from telling someone?
I don't even know if I had a fear of holding it back. I had a fear more of saying something.
Mm-hmm.
So it was like my voice was being taken. It was like I was just being silenced. So it wasn't that I was afraid to hold back. It was afraid to say something. I
To say
wanted
so.
to say something, but I was afraid to say something.
Yeah.
Or because it was like I didn't know what to expect. I figured my parents are going to be so angry. And, with him, it was like, don't say anything. So I was like, okay. So I knew I was sworn to secrecy. And when coming to my room, it's like, shh, be quiet. And so you're like, why am I being quiet? Like, something wrong here? Like, but then again, I'm like, you're waking me up. So I'm really tired. Like, leave me alone, kind of thing. But then
Mm-hmm.
I have to still stay awake because you need whatever you want,
Yeah.
whatever attention you need or whatever.
Was there a sense of disappointment, not wanting to disappoint your parents, and shame? Was there anything like that you also felt?
It was both.
This is deviating from that. Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't want to disappoint my parents, but then I
Mm-hmm.
didn't want to disappoint the person either. So because I cared for both of them and the person was kind to me, supposedly.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. All right.
But
So
then
there's a question.
time I
Yeah, go
figured
ahead.
out it was grooming.
Sorry.
They were
Sorry.
kind. I said they were kind to me, but within time I found out it was grooming.
Uh-huh.
With time, years later
You
of
understood that
reading
it
it
was.
and doing the research for my book, then I was like, wait, what? I
Yeah.
knew something was wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right, educating ourselves. And I think this, having this platform and you now talking about this, is educating others about it, because they may not have thought, that someone, even in the church, or someone that's
Yeah.
their friend or neighbor, can do something like this to their child, right? So
Yeah.
there's a few comments that are coming in. I'm going to put them on the screen so you can also see them. um, how can parents and children have a relationship that would encourage the child to feel free to talk to them?
Um, okay, I give you the example of my daughter.
Hmm.
Going through what I went through, one of the most important things for me was not to let it go into another generation. So for me, I was very open with my daughter. I tried my very best to be open, talk to me about anything, even if I don't want to hear it, talk to me about anything, because at the end of the day, if you don't talk to me, you're going to tell somebody else, and I may never find out what you're dealing with or what might be bothering you.
Yeah.
So I tried to keep an open line of communication with her. Um, I can remember when she was about 10, we had went to Jamaica. We went for an outreach project, and she was sitting with one of our family members. They were looking at a cell phone. I had no idea what was going on. But then a few months later, when I came back to Canada, she shared whatever she saw, what the relative there showed her, with another cousin. And that cousin's parent called me, like, what is this? And then before I knew it, my daughter's now telling me that this is what happened to her, someone exposed to pornography in Jamaica. And so
Mm,
for me, even though the line of communication was wide open, she didn't she didn't really say anything much about it because she didn't have an understanding of whether it was right, wrong,
wrong. Yeah.
indifferent. She wasn't completely clear because again, there I didn't really break down pornography to her more than it's not good. Like I don't
Yes.
think she was exposed till after that. So it was really like, oh my goodness. And now we had to address it and
Right.
work with her through it. This isn't good for you, whatever, and this isn't for your age, it's not age appropriate, and walk
Right.
through different things with her, like, no, it's not acceptable. But again, it was because of the open lines of communication and being, like, if our kids are doing things, we're always watching, so like always checking in just in case they bump into a wrong website or something. And
Yeah.
in dealing with that, we were able to, keeping the lines of communication open within the family and stuff, we're able to address matters like that quickly. So it wasn't something that it lingered, but we were able to address it and deal with it as best as we could.
Right. Right. I like that. And you mentioned, even for those of you who weren't here earlier, when you said that the earliest time to start that communication with your child is as soon as they're able to talk, as soon as they're able to um, communicate,
Verbalize that.
and say to someone, no, this is not okay. This is my private spot or private place,
Yeah.
as early as 2 years old, right? There's another question here. Um, the worst part is when the parents do not believe or make it seem like the child did something wrong. Absolutely.
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 Been there.
Yeah.
I was there. And that was one of the things. I love my mom dearly. And one of the things she wasn't able to really see clearly that I wasn't making it up. And I remember we weren't talking for at least from the time I was 14 till maybe about 6 to 7 years that
Yeah.
we weren't talking. And it was just like, I don't want, you don't believe me, so whatever. I don't want nothing to do with you.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it was a hard place to be because, as a child, you want to have a relationship with your parents. So it was
Yeah.
really like, I'm walking past you. I see you. You're my mom. I don't say hi to you. I just walk past you. It's like you don't exist. I do
Yeah.
care about you, but I just don't want to talk to you. I just, you know,
Yeah.
but then I took back the relationships about 7 years later. I was like, no, we have to deal with this. And it's my fault, but we got to deal with this. And I want to have a better relationship with you. And we were able to eventually have a relationship
Or
again.
was it? Did you say it's your fault? Did you just say it's your fault?
No, it was my choice to not talk to my mom.
Okay. Okay. Sorry.
It
I
was
was
my
going to say
no, no,
definitely
no,
not your fault.
no, not my
Okay.
fault, not my fault.
Okay.
But it was my choice to not
Choice.
talk to her. And I had to go through that forgiveness piece
Yeah.
and learn to be able to be like, you know what? I know it wasn't just because she didn't want to hear me. It was just that she couldn't see that person in the light, that like she just didn't see them
Yeah.
in that light, that they would do something to harm her child. And
Yeah.
I think that's probably the place where she came from. No, it wasn't right. And
Hmm.
it's really important for us as parents to understand that your children do not just make up things like this.
No.
It's not, it is better to believe them and it's wrong than to not believe them and it's right. And it really,
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. There's a long comment here. I don't know what it's going to look like on the screen. Let me see if I can put it up. Um, so that was my thoughts about opening up to be open, so they don't feel like they're stressing you or being a burden when they themselves is or went through something. Small talk where it um,
where they
where they
don't always
don't
feel like,
always feel like they're your parent, if that makes sense. Okay, so getting the question out. So basically, making them feel comfortable enough to come to you that they don't feel like, oh my gosh, I'm gonna make my parents stress out about the situation. I'm gonna make it hard for the family, right?
yeah,
Sometimes people think, children think, if I bring this up, it's gonna, especially if it's someone in the home or someone that's close,
yeah,
and it happens to adults as well. Adults that are being um, uh, not groomed, but like preyed upon by someone else, and they are having a difficult time talking about it. And that's why you see, looking at the Epstein files today as well.
yeah,
There's people who've gone through things and have never spoken about it for 20 years, like you. For years and years and years, they're harboring this in their hearts and in their minds. And eventually it comes out because maybe they have a support system, right?
that's it. That's it.
Um, let me go back to the questions. Thank you for the viewers and the listeners that are throwing out those questions. We really appreciate them. Um, when you finally did share your story, what did what was a helpful response? What did it look like? Versus, was it a helpful response or a harmful response when you finally got it out to through your friend or whoever it is that told? How was the response going? We kind of just talked about that, where the relationship between your mom and yourself was severed for a
Yeah,
bit.
yeah.
So what? How was it
Well, my
for the
father's
rest of
response was different. He
them?
believed, and he was kind of like, okay, so what should we do? How do we go about this kind of
Yeah,
thing? Do you feel safe around the person? Do you not, kind of thing?
yeah,
And so my father made certain movements to let me feel safe in a sense. Um, and then the person who did whatever they did, um, they were very disappointed. It was kind of like, how could you do this to me, kind of thing. And like,
hmm
I just
yeah.
knew
Just still like blaming you or
like it.
making you seem like
Exactly. Exactly.
they are the victim now.
And I think that's the piece because you've been in this cycle from the time you were like a child till you're a teenager. It's as if they think they're in a relationship with you and you're like, no, but we're not. This is wrong.
Yeah.
And so it's very strange. It's very strange. Many of us
hmm
would say that's sick. Like, how do you as a grown person with a child, it's just distasteful, but um it leaves you feeling like you're an adult, but you're not an adult, you're a teenager, and they're trying to talk to you as if you're an adult, which makes no sense you
Yeah.
know but yeah, I think in the long run, some believe, some don't, but for the most part, at the end of the day, I got help. you know
Yeah.
be, being able to go to CAS, they were trying to help as best as they can, and it was kind of like, should we charge him, should we not? And it's like, why are you asking me as a child that? Like,
So that's a question that was asked to
oh
you.
yeah, yeah,
You,
it was
what would
weird.
you like to happen here?
Yeah, and I was
hmm
just like, okay. And I'm looking at the person across the table like, you're gonna make me lose my job, like what?
hmm
It was very. I don't think they do things that way anymore. They're probably more, you know, able to do something more. But for me, I just I really hope that parents would take a note from me and just listen to your children, hear
Yeah.
them out, and do the research, find out. I know of others who have been through it, and it took so many years, and now they've got, if it's even their stepdads, they're in jail as a result. But it took
Yeah.
years of sitting
hmm
there, bearing the brunt of the pain of whatever they went through, because they didn't want to tell the family, because they didn't want no one to look down on the person. They didn't want the family to look bad. And
Yeah.
you're just looking at covering up for everybody. But what about
hmm
yourself?
Yeah.
Where do you get the help?
hmm
That's children. Most children are trying to think, how do I help everybody else but myself? They don't know
Yes.
what.
Yes. Yeah. Mm. So there's a statement in the back, and you're not. I don't think I'm going to be able to bring it up to the front, but I'm going to read it out. Um, so making the victim feel. So basically, they're making the victim feel like it's their fault. It's a common tactic by predators. What are some things parents can do to make sure their child is if their child is violated this way, the child feels comfortable enough to talk? So we did, I guess we
Yeah,
covered that.
say that. Yeah.
And especially if it gets out of hand and when it's a person that the family member knows. So we talked about that. Something just came through again. Let me check. So this one here says avoid sleepovers too.
Sure.
It's very important because, as you say, even family members are closest to abuse you. Yes.
Oh yeah. I was never one to send my daughter to sleepovers. It was kind of like, you have a home, you have your own bed. Like, no. And
Yeah.
even at times I would have relatives' children over, and right away I would see the little boys trying to do this sleep under the blanket. I'm like, oh no, 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 we're not doing that. So
Yeah.
because so many times children can reenact different things with other kids based on
Yes.
stuff that they've been through. Even for me, like going through what I went through, you go out with other kids and you're around other kids, and if you're not careful, you're experimenting on each other,
That's
and it's
right.
not cool because
Yeah.
you're doing what you saw happen to you.
Yes.
And kids don't get up and do that stuff unless they were exposed to it.
Exposed to it.
They
Right.
don't.
Exactly.
Like, if you see them doing things that you see on TV, on a video, it's not happening because they were not exposed to it.
Yeah.
Somewhere somebody exposed it to them. And
Right.
then they realized, oh, let me do this. And they don't know what they're doing, but they just go ahead and they're mimicking what they've seen. So
Right.
it's really not a good thing to send your kids on sleepover. It's really important also to make sure you know who you're sending your kids around.
Yeah.
Even if you think you
Absolutely.
know them, be careful.
Hmm.
Be
Hmm.
careful and keep the line of communication open. Let your children know what are the safe spots, what's not safe. What's your
Right.
private parts where nobody should touch. You know,
Yeah.
I you sang a song with my kids at daycare. These are my private parts. And I would let them kind of put their hands the different areas, their self, and say they belong to me and nobody can touch them and
Yeah.
all that stuff. Because
Yeah.
it's important when they know that, then they're like, oh, if you're touching here, no, that's not okay. Mommy said no, that's my private part and nobody's allowed to touch it. So
Yeah. There was a video that was trending actually on
yes,
social media. These are
yes,
my private parts,
yes,
private part. And they made it into a song. So
yes,
and that's how we learned from a very young age about song and play. And, so
yes,
singing that song is going to stick in their memory and their mind about which places are their private parts. I like that
exactly.
you did that with your daycare children, right? Um, I'm going to ask one more question and then we're going to talk a little bit more about your book because we're almost at the end of our show. Um, have you worked to separate your identity from the things that happened to you?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, I had to because I'm not a victim. As I said, I'm a victor, I'm an overcomer. There's a lot of things that I struggled with, and I had, as I said, to go to counseling because I had trust issues. I remember in my first marriage, there were a lot of things that I wasn't comfortable with because it was a reminder of what happened in the past. But I had to eventually, after that, my marriage dissolved. I had to continue going to counseling and do what I had to do to learn how to trust, how to believe that not everybody's trying to bring harm to you. Not everybody is selfish and trying to gratify themselves. I also had to come to a place where I'm like, you know what? You don't have low self esteem. Maybe you had it before, but let's work
Mhm.
towards becoming a woman who is who loves herself. Because I
Yeah.
know for me, I didn't love myself because I thought a lot of the times, well, I just feel used. I feel like I'm not good enough, or I feel like I'm not worthy of
Yeah.
being loved because so many people have tampered with me. But then when I look at it, I'm like, don't worry about what they did to you. They they bothered your life, but they couldn't kill you. They didn't kill the
Yes.
dream. They
Yeah.
didn't kill the voice that's within you. And today you can speak where you were afraid to talk about things. You're confident and you're able to talk about the things that you don't like, or you're able
Mm.
to talk about the things that you enjoy. And
Yeah.
for me, I have just decided to pursue God, pursue, writing, continue writing and sharing my stories and testimonies with people about what God has done for me, because I believe that at the end of the day, when people know that you don't have to commit suicide, you
Hmm.
don't have to drink, you don't have to just become promiscuous and just all over the place with people. You don't have to
Yeah.
devalue yourself. You're still good enough. You're still worthy of love. You're still beautiful. And
Yeah.
yes, they might have done stuff and it scarred you and it caused trauma in your life. But at the end of the day, there must have been some reason why they would see you as a person to try to bother. There must be something valuable about you.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I
So,
have
thank you for that. So, there's a question here: if the child is being assaulted by one of the parents, is there any advice for the other parent in detecting if the child doesn't tell them?
well, I would say um and it depends on how close you are to your spouse, because I
Hmm.
do know of another person I met and it was the same thing. The person got married and it wasn't the father, it was the
Her
stepfather that
father.
did it to the child. And
Hmm.
so it's imperative for us. if our children are saying something to us, because most times children say something, they will kind of try to say something, or they might act a certain way. If you notice, maybe your child is withdrawn, all of a sudden they were maybe a bubbly kid, and all of a sudden now they're just always to themselves. Why did
Yeah.
that change happen? Is everything okay? But what
Hmm.
happened? So or maybe they might be peeing all the time, or they were not peeing the bed all the time, and all of a sudden they just start doing that. Is something going on there? Or maybe if when you're doing the laundry, you come across underwear and they're soiled in certain ways, you're able to pick up things like that.
Yeah. Hmm. Thank you for answering that. Here's a question and statement. Be sure to let your child know that he or she is loved, that they aren't accidents, and they need to know that you are the buffer
Yes,
when they get home from being ridiculed at school, when they are unhappy about anything. They need to know that you are never too busy for them, no matter what. Absolutely.
for sure. For
Absolutely.
sure.
You are the guardian, right? Their savior. Look at the child's behavior towards that person. Yes, that's
Yeah.
something to look at. Signs
Yeah.
to look at. How are they interacting with that person? Are they now hiding, like running away from that person? Are they drawn towards that person? Um, they may become hostile or overly loved. Yes,
True.
actually,
Overly loving. Yeah, for
yeah,
sure. For sure. Because one of the things, even as perpetrators, when they're looking for a victim, they're looking for a child that isn't as attached to the parents, one of those free spirited children. They're looking for that child because at the end of the day, they they can run away somewhere and nobody really misses them because they're always just all over the place. They don't, so they're
mm,
looking for someone that's not always attached to their parents, that the parents won't notice if they're
yeah,
not always around them, right?
yeah,
But it's usually those kids that are not the ones that are clinging to their parents all the time. Those are the ones. So I get it when that person says, let your children know that they're loved. Because if they don't, they're looking for love
yes,
if you're not showing it to them as a parent. So
yeah.
that person who's giving them everything that they want, they're gravitating to them and they want to be around them all the time because they're giving them everything. So
And just know this, parents, it doesn't have to be the opposite sex. It could be the same sex of
yeah,
person that is trying to harm your child or abuse your child. So be aware of those signs as well, right? Perpetrators come in all shapes and all sizes and all kinds of, you know, ways to uh, abuse your children. All right. So before we go, I want you to tell people how they can get your book. Are you still selling your book? Where they can find you to hear more about your stories and your upcoming podcast. I'm
yeah.
holding you to it.
Yeah, you can DM me at Tanya C. King on Instagram, or you can email me at tanyakWrites@gmail.com. And I have the books. I will be putting up a new website coming soon. I'm redoing the website, and yeah, so I sell them in person. I can mail them to you. I can ship it to you. Or if you're in the area, I'm in Brampton, I can drop it to you, kind of thing.
Yeah.
Or if I'm in Toronto and I go to church, I can connect with you in Toronto. Yeah, those are the ways you can get a hold of me. Um,
Yeah. Yeah, because you know what? Tanya said a lot tonight, but sometimes when you read the information, it sticks even more. And if you want, you can go back and watch the recorded show on YouTube. It's going to be there for you to watch it. It's going to be there for you to share with your friends and family. But I would encourage you to get that book so you can have it as a reference guide as well to helping you understand more about this grooming process, but also if you know someone that was a victim or victimized, that they can read about how Tanya went through her healing process and leaning on God to help her through the process. So I want to thank everyone for tuning in on every platform: Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, Instagram, radio. Appreciate you. I want to say stay on, because tonight is Anthony Drago's show. This Week in Interview. Right next, after this episode, is going to be another episode of another wonderful show. Tanya, don't jump off. I'm just going to end the show and we will be right back together. You and I tune in next week for real talk, real strategies, real situations on Minds in Motion.